is the VON Major Newscast.
Good evening. I am Daniel Moore in with your VON Major News package for today, Tuesday, 21st January 2020. In our lead stories nationally, first shooting incident on Nevis for 2020 being investigated. And disaster officials say things are back to normal following bomb cyclone passage. Regionally, 16-year-old is Grenada's first homicide victim for the year. Internationally, President Trump decries climate prophets of doom with Thunberg in the audience. And in sports, West Indies eased to 9-wicket win to draw T20 series against Ireland. We'll have the details to these and other stories after this short break.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back, and now for the national news. Police here on Nevis are investigating a shooting incident that took place on the island. According to information received from law enforcement, the incident took place on the evening of Monday, 20th January, sometime at about 11 o'clock in Brownhill. According to Superintendent of the Nevis Division of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Lyndon David, 3 individuals were sitting in a yard when a masked assailant fired a shot at them. He explained that no one was injured during the incident, and investigations are continuing and is seeking the cooperation of the community in solving this matter.
We know that we had a good period of calm, where we had no such incident, and we do hope that persons in the area will be willing to support the police whilst we are investigating this matter to establish exactly what took place, and based on the evidence, to take persons before the court.
This is the first shooting incident to take place on the island for 2020 and the second in the Federation for the year. The first occurred on St. Kitts on Friday, 17th January at about 4 a.m. when an armed assailant entered into the home of Shaquem Joseph of Ponds Extension, St. Kitts, demanding a number of items and shooting Joseph at the same point. Joseph was taken to the Joseph N. France General Hospital, where he was treated and is warded and is in stable condition. Investigations into that incident are also continuing. The weather is back to normal. Disaster officials here on St. Kitts and Nevis have disclosed that with respect to the weather that the bomb cyclone has passed and residents and citizens were unscathed. Director of the Nevis Disaster Management Department, NDMD, Mr. Brian Dyer, gives us this update.
The impact on Nevis in particular was severe in that it interrupted the transportation network from the Charlestown Ferry Terminal to the Bastille Ferry Terminal, and we had significant erosion on our beaches. So in that regard, we have seen the remnants of the impact with regards to the high wave and sea swells, and the physical planning department should be doing some assessment with regards to the level of beach erosion that was experienced. The transportation has resumed from the Charlestown Ferry Terminal. By all reports, the transportation has resumed and things are back to normal. We are experiencing some rain showers from the system as it moves away from the Eastern Caribbean.
In St. Kitts, National Disaster Coordinator Mr. Abdia Samuel, who explained what a bomb cyclone is, provided this update regarding the island.
High pressure systems enters a low pressure system, and the reaction that you get from that system causes a swirling reaction that causes the waves to travel long distances. We are high surf advisory or high swells advisory given for areas that can be affected. Warnings were issued. We advised the general public, and in that particular area you would have seen the seas a bit rough, as we say in normal terms. Fortunately, we did not have anyone that would have either lost their life or would would have been impacted besides what I just mentioned. Then also what was critical for St. Kitts and Nevis, which impacts our economy, is that there was no ferry services for a few days.
National Disaster Coordinator Mr. Abdias Samuel. Following the first shooting incident here on Nevis for 2020, the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force is calling on individuals to refrain from engaging in such activities. The incident comes following a record drop of 48% in murders in 2019 compared to that of 2018. With this first occurrence on the island for 2020 and the second in the Federation for the year, does this mean there is a regression of the progress made? Head of the Nevis Division of the Force, Superintendent Lyndon David, provided this answer to that question.
It says that we're dealing with human beings, and we are looking at it that persons are still there who may want to do certain things that we would consider to be not acceptable where the law is concerned. As a result, we want persons to be concerned and just report to the police and give that necessary information so that we can take the perpetrators before the court and have the matters addressed right there.
Superintendent David further also cautioned the individuals intending on breaking the law of the land.
Crime does not pay, and persons have to look at the best interests of their country and look at the benefit of having a low crime or no crime at all. That would benefit the island of Nevis and further to the country. So I am saying to those persons, if, for example, they're unemployed, there are other ways of getting their means met as opposed to doing it illegally. The job that you want may not be the one that is available or you're qualified for. So the one that is available to you and for which you're qualified, you have to take that as opposed to commit crime, to say that that's the only way to survive.
Superintendent Lyndon David. Some 614 men were screened during Urology Associates' 14th annual prostate screening exercise on Saturday, January 18th at the Occasion Center here on Nevis. The screening was a process used to detect undiagnosed prostate cancer in men without signs or symptoms. We spoke with Dr. Dwayne Thwaites of Urology Associates after the exercise, who gave us this comment.
It gets bigger and better, and it's more efficiently run, and again, what we're seeing more and more is late-stage disease or people who don't make use or benefit of the screening process that they have for free on the island, and that's when we see the guys that come in who I get upset. The ones who come in when we first started and then don't show up for another 5-6 years, and now you find that they have prostate cancer, it's late stage, compared to the ones who we pick up early and we can treat again, the cure rate is treat. The reason why anybody screen or do screening process for a disease is the fact that if you screen and pick up the disease, you have a treatment option available for you.
With respect to the prevalence of late stages of prostate cancer, Dr. Thwaites said that has been reduced.
Late stage disease have decreased considerably. Less than 1% of the population now are coming in with late stage disease. But the ones that we see with late stage disease, be careful and when I speak, is the ones who don't come in and check. So within our database, I don't have numbers on that because they don't come in and check. But for our database, we hardly see anyone with late-stage disease who has come in and screened on a yearly basis. It's almost negligible.
Dr. Dwayne Thwaites. Meanwhile, we also spoke with Junior Minister of Health here on Nevis, the Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams.
For me, this year, what I have recognized is that we have more and more younger men who are coming on stream. It would appear as though as soon as men hit the 40 mark, they are out. It means then that the message is getting out there. Persons are encouraging each other, and so we see men coming out in their numbers. For me today as well, what I would have seen that I have never seen before is that there were a number of girlfriends and wives who were here accompanying their spouses. I would like to also place on record our profound thanks to Dr. Thwaites and his team.
The Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams. The two major revenue collecting agencies of the Government of St. Kitts and Nevis, Inland Revenue Department and the Customs and Excise Department, collected $457 million in total for 2019. Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, provided this breakdown last Wednesday as it relates to the collection of tax revenues.
As they are ingested by the smaller fish, they come further up the food chain as bigger fish eat the smaller fish, etc. And as that happens, then those will probably affect us because those materials are toxic, so they will get into our digestive system, into our body, and probably would result in higher rates of cancer among us. The straws and the plastic bags, they can affect turtles. Turtles can eat the plastic bags. They will mistake them for jellyfish, which is part of the diet of some of them. And so they will choke on them. That's one thing that can happen. Also, they can ingest them, and they will think that this is food, and their stomachs will be full, but then they will be full of just what plastic is not something that I can digest. And so they'll end up starving as a result of that.
Here on Nevis, the Nevis Island Administration, NIA, collected $87.79 million in tax revenue as of October 2019, according to the 2020 budget, Chapter 3, Domestic Economic Performance. In 2019, the governments here in St. Kitts and Nevis spoke of putting legislation in place to ban the use of single-use plastics on St. Kitts and Nevis for the calendar year 2020. Jamaica, Dominica, the Turks and Caicos, Haiti, St. Vincent and the Grenadines are just some of the Caribbean territories that have already joined the global movement. Environmentalists note that over 1 million marine animals, including mammals, fish, sharks, turtles, and birds, are killed each year due to plastic debris in the ocean. Currently, it is estimated that there are 1 million tons of plastic in the oceans around the world. The United Nations Joint Group of Experts on the Scientific Aspects of Marine Pollution, or GESAMP, estimated that land-based sources account for up to 80% of the world's marine pollution, 60 to 95% of the waste being plastic debris. There have been cries across the world concerning the damage these plastics have been doing to the environment. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, how are these single-use plastics impacting the various ecosystems in the Federation? Lemuel Pemberton, Director of Marine Resources here on Nevis, outlined to the VON Newsline how plastics have impacted marine life.
In the short term, I don't see any impact. Also, it really has to be like a regional worldwide ban on the use of plastics for it to have an impact, because some of the materials is also not from local sources. It comes from overseas neighboring islands, maybe may come way across the ocean to our shores. But in the long term, yes, it will have an impact, and we'll have less of the microplastics, which are the ones that people really find to be the dangerous ones in the oceans.
In addition to this, Mr. Pemberton expressed that there is more than meets the eye when it comes to the ban on single-use plastics and need all stakeholders to be on board to see positive results in this aspect.
As they are ingested by the smaller fish, they come further up the food chain as bigger fish eat the smaller fish, etc. And as that happens, then those will probably affect us because those materials are toxic, so they will get into our digestive system, into our body, and probably would result in higher rates of cancer among us. The straws and the plastic bags, they can affect turtles. Turtles can eat the plastic bags. They will mistake them for jellyfish, which is part of the diet of some of them. And so they will choke on them. That's one thing that can happen. Also, they can ingest them, and they will think that this is food, and their stomachs will be full, but then they will be full of just what plastic is not something that I can digest. And so they'll end up starving as a result of that.
Director of Marine Resources here on Nevis, Mr. Lemuel Pemberton. That is the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com or check us out on Facebook at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. News from across the region is next.
as your business needs, and we're here to help. Our knowledgeable staff will work with you to help you achieve the financial success that you or your company needs in a competitive market. We offer solutions to make your banking experience easier, like our savings and checking accounts. Be sure to ask about our youth savers accounts and our Bank of Nevis Gold Club. We offer a wide range of personal loans, including mortgage, land, student, auto, and consumer loans. Have access to your funds instantly with our BeOnline internet banking and our debit and credit cards. We make international banking and investing easy. How's your business? Give it the leverage it really needs by letting the Bank of Nevis assist you with all the necessary funding for all your business expenses. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Bank of Nevis.
Welcome back, and now for the regional news. In Grenada, police have charged 30-year-old farmer Keron Chitan of Upper St. John's with the death of a 16-year-old schoolgirl who is also the first recorded homicide victim for the country. The lifeless body of Lanesha Stafford from the village of Hermitage in St. Patrick's, who was a student of the MacDonald College Secondary School, was discovered in a house in Carrier, St. Andrew last Sunday. According to police, the victim died as a result of a single gunshot to the head. According to a report Chitan gave to the police, during the afternoon hours of last Sunday, while having a shower, he heard a loud noise resembling the sound of a gunshot. He rushed out to find Stafford lying motionless in the bedroom with an injury to her head and alerted neighbors. The police were then called, and the body was later examined by the district medical officer and pronounced dead. Rumors also circulating speculate that the young lady was shot at the front door after hearing a knock and going to answer it. The Grenada Informer also heard of rumors that after the gunshot was fired, a white car was seen driving away from the area. Police have since launched a major investigation into the homicide, and while they are still piecing together the puzzle of what actually transpired, they are convinced that they have enough evidence to charge Chitan with the crime, the Grenadian Informer.com says. Antigua's Prime Minister Gaston Brown has kicked Agriculture Minister Dean Jonas from his cabinet, but has given him a chance to return in 6 months once he can make some changes, including improving the toxic relationships he has had with staff and farmers. Prime Minister Brown, who said he had been impressing on Jonas the need to do better about mid-2019, wrote a letter to the embattled minister on Monday, January 20th, informing him that his termination would take effect that same day. Giving the reason for his decision, the Prime Minister wrote to Jonas, "For more than 6 months, I have tried to dissuade you from taking decisions in a missile to good governance and to my government's policy. My attempts have been in vain." However, Brown, in some indications that Jonas, who is a member of the parliament for the St. George's constituency, could return to the ministerial position he held for a year and a half, according to Caribbean360.com. And finally, in Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans poured into the streets of San Juan on Monday, calling for the resignation of Governor Wanda Vazquez. The protests came days after Hurricane Maria supplies were found in a warehouse over the weekend in the city of Ponce on Puerto Rico's southern coast. They included numerous pallets of water and other boxes with emergency supplies. The discovery took place as the U.S. territory struggles with tremors and aftershocks from a December earthquake. Protesters were seen Monday banging pots outside the governor's mansion in San Juan. Vazquez took to Twitter hoping to quell the outrage among citizens. Edition.cnn.com quoted her as saying, "I respect the constitutional right of citizens to demonstrate," she said. The protests were reminiscent of what took place in Puerto Rico last summer when protesters filled the streets demanding the resignation of then-Governor Ricardo Rosello, who resigned in August. That is the regional news segment. International news is up next. Welcome back, and now for the international news. U.S. President Donald Trump has decried climate prophets of doom in a speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where sustainability is the main theme. He called for a rejection of the predictions of the apocalypse and said America would defend its economy. Mr. Trump did not directly name the teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg, who was in the audience. Later, she criticized political leaders, saying the world, in case you hadn't noticed, is currently on fire. Here is more in this BBC report.
The president used his speech for a full-throated attack on those demanding much tougher action to slow global warming and climate change. The president said this was not a time for pessimism, and we must reject, he said, the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of apocalypse. But one of his fiercest critics, the Swedish teenage activist Greta Thunberg, is also here. She's condemning not just the United States, but governments around the world for doing nothing and hiding behind empty promises instead.
Meantime, Mr. Trump said the U.S. is in the midst of an economic boom.
I knew that if we unleashed the potential of our people, if we cut taxes, slashed regulations, and we did that at a level that's never been done before in the history of our country in a short period of time, fixed broken trade deals and fully tapped American energy, that prosperity would come thundering back at a record speed. And that is exactly what we did, and that is exactly what happened.
China's top leaders have warned lower-level officials not to cover up the spread of a new coronavirus that has now infected nearly 300 people. Anyone who concealed new cases would be nailed on a pillar of shame for eternity, the political body responsible for law and order said. More from the BBC's Stephen MacDonald.
Chinese medical experts have said that anybody who has a high temperature should stay in Wuhan, and officials in the central Chinese city have banned local tour groups from leaving during the Lunar New Year break. As the sickness cluster which started there becomes wider, cars driving out of the city are being pulled over for random health checks. And overseas, Australia is the latest country to introduce special screening for passengers arriving from Wuhan. According to official figures, hundreds have already been infected, but today Hong Kong scientists joined their British counterparts in estimating that the real figure could already be in the thousands.
Coca-Cola will not ditch single-use plastic bottles because consumers still want them, the firm's head of sustainability has told the BBC. Customers like them because they are reseal and lightweight, said Bia Perez. The firm, which is one of the world's biggest plastic waste polluters, has pledged to recycle as many plastic bottles as it uses by 2030, but environmental campaigners argue many Coke bottles will still go uncollected and end up in landfill. The drink giant produces 3 million tons of plastic packaging a year, equivalent to 200,000 bottles a minute. In 2019, it was found to be the most polluting brand in the global audit of plastic waste by the charity Break Free from Plastic. However, speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Ms. Perez said the firm recognized it now had to be part of the solution. Coke has pledged to use at least 50% of recycled material in its packaging by 2030. It is also partnering with NGOs around the world to help improve collection. And finally, in our international news, the Duke of Sussex have arrived in Canada as he prepares for a new life away from royal duties. Prince Harry landed in Vancouver Island on Tuesday morning to be reunited with his wife, the Duchess of Sussex, and their 8-month-old son, Archie. It comes after the Duke said he was taking a leap of faith in stepping back as a senior royal, but there really was no other option. From this spring, the Sussexes will no longer be full-time working royals. They will stop using their HRH titles, no longer carry out royal duties or military appointments, and no longer formally represent the Queen. The new arrangement was unveiled on Saturday, following days of talks with the Queen and other senior royals, including Harry's older brother, the Duke of Cambridge. That's it for international news. Sports is up next.
A cool laptop, a new backpack, and so do all my TDC Business Center and City Drugstore Nevis, your one-stop shop for all your school supply needs. Get bundle savings on backpack and computer packages, but save 20% off all back-to-school materials and printers. Back-to-school shopping is made easy at TDC Business Center and City Drugstore Nevis. See stores for details.
Welcome back, and now into sports. In cricket, West Indies secured a 1-1 draw with Ireland in the 2020 series after a win in St. Kitts. Ireland 138 runs in 19.1 overs, O'Brien 36 runs, Pollard 3 for 17, Bravo 3 for 19. West Indies 140 for 1 in 11 overs, Simmons 91 runs not out, Lewis 46 runs, 1 for 41. West Indies won by 9 wickets. Meanwhile, Australia recorded a dominant 10-wicket victory over Nigeria in Kimberley, South Africa, to keep its hopes of reaching the Super League stage of the 2020 ICC Under-19 Cricket World Cup alive. Still in cricket, South Africa have named Quinton de Kock as their new one-day captain, beginning with the series against the World Cup winners England in February. The 27-year-old will replace Faf du Plessis, who has been South Africa's skipper in 3 formats. Du Plessis is not in the 15-man squad for the ODI series against England. In basketball, the Los Angeles Lakers fell to their heaviest defeat of the NBA season as they were beaten 139-107 by the Boston Celtics at TD Garden. Jason Tatum scored 27 points, while Kemba Walker, returning from an injury, added a further 20 for the Celtics. The Celtics had lost 6 of their previous 8 games. The Lakers, the Western Conference leaders, have lost 9 games this season and play the New York Knicks on Thursday. And finally, in basketball, the following are the scores from last evening's matches. Wizards beat Pistons 106-100, Raptors defeat the Hawks 122-117, 76ers beat the Nets 117-111, Thunder beat the Rockets by a 5-point margin, 112-107, Knicks defeat the Cavs 106-86 in the match featuring Pelicans versus Grizzlies. The scores were 126-116. That's it for sports. The latest weather forecast is up next. The weather tonight, partly cloudy with a 50% or moderate chance of showers. The weather tomorrow, partly cloudy with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Winds east at 15 to 30 kilometers per hour or 8 to 16 knots. Seas 1 to 1.5 meters or 3 to 5 feet. Sunrise tomorrow is at 6:44 a.m. Sunset tomorrow is at 6:01 p.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, first shooting incident in Nevis for 2020 being investigated, and disaster officials say things are back to normal following bomb cyclone passage. Regionally, 16-year-old is Grenada's first homicide victim for the year. Internationally, President Trump decries climate prophets of doom with Thunberg in the audience. And in sports, West Indies eased to 9-wicket win to draw T20 series against Ireland. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Danielle Moore, wishing you a pleasant evening.